And thanks for the report. Illinois Congressman Mike Quigley, it's Democrat. He represents the 5th District in Illinois. That includes parts of Chicago's north side, northwest suburbs, and he's with us again in our WGN studios tonight. Congressman, welcome back.
Thank you.
So much to talk about. Let's begin. That package talked a lot about the president's reset on Afghanistan. I guess my question, was it a reset? It seemed as though President Obama's strategy at the end was to go back to conditions on the ground. He did try to have dates where we would withdraw. That didn't work.
Yeah, pretty similar strategy to President Obama, President Bush. If it's a reset on his own beliefs, right? During the campaign, he talked a lot about a full withdrawal. It was a total waste of time. He said he wasn't going to nation build then, as he does now. But the fact is, as Colin Powell said, if you break it, you own it. You got to fix it. So, look, let's put this in a broader perspective. We have now been in that country 4 times longer than the Civil War, or our involvement in the Second World War. Trillions of dollars in expenditures, more importantly, thousands of lives lost. To what avail? What's different? The Pakistani government is still harboring terrorists. The Afghan government is still corrupt. Their military is inept. And now we have the Russians somehow involved with the Taliban.
But President Trump would say, exactly right, but this is my war. I mean, I think he took ownership of that war last night.
He did, but the fact is, if you're going to change the course of where this war is, which is different than the role that's being carried out now, a couple thousand more troops, which is what we would assume he's talking about, isn't going to make much difference at all.
Does it make enough difference to get the Afghan people trained? In other words, we're not going in, I think, to send these, if these rumors are right, 3,800, 3,900 troops. They're not necessarily going to fight, they're going to train. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I watched this firsthand, and maybe it's just a small sample size. You know, with the illiteracy rate as high as it is in the Afghan army, and the weapons that they're using, you know, they try to show me the best of what they're accomplishing. I think it would have disappointed every American.
Do you know what he meant? He said he was going to make sure our troops had all the weapons they wanted. He talked about essentially being able to make sure they win. This is about winning. But he said he overturned several Obama administration restrictions on what they could do. I wasn't sure what he was referring to. Do you know?
I'm not exactly sure what he's referencing. If I had to guess, it had something to do with what I might be briefed on the Intelligence Committee. But that's just guessing because he wasn't specific. He wasn't specific on a lot of matters.
Well, in the past, I mean, he has supported waterboarding, those kind of techniques outlawed by the Geneva Convention. And my question is, might he have been referring to that or not, or probably not?
I hope not, because what's going to happen if he reverts to those kind of things is we're going to lose a lot of our allies and a lot of our support from NATO in our efforts there.
I'm glad Well, I want to bring that because he mentioned NATO last night, right, and he's counting on the support of allies. Didn't mention Russia at all last night, but with regard to NATO, you know, he's ruffled some feathers there among our NATO allies. You've been around this business a long time. Do people like Angela Merkel would ever say, "I'm sorry, President Trump, you've ticked me off, you're on your own," or do they look beyond all of that personal realm and go, "It's war and we need to work together"?
When the president says, or he's either mute or doesn't say much at all about Article 5, and then he says, "Now I want your help over here," he's not encouraging their support. It's going to hurt us in the long run. But if he reverts to those strategies of waterboarding and other measures, he's going to lose their support across the board on a lot of other issues, including their willingness to share information with us that keeps us safe.
Were you surprised that Russia wasn't mentioned at all last night? Russia's playing a role in Afghanistan. They've been there a lot longer than we have.
We talk about Russia only in terms of the investigation. The fact of the matter is, if this president means what he says about Russia and having a good relationship, well, Putin can do a lot of good toward the greater end for all of us. The president can ask Putin to stop trading with North Korea, to stop arming the Taliban in Afghanistan. Let's find a peaceful solution that removes Assad in Syria, and the list goes on. But I just don't think he has that kind of relationship, and frankly, you get the impression that Putin feels like he has something on the president and doesn't need his help at all.
He also made reference to Pakistan and India. There's no love lost between those two countries. Was he poking a bear in that area last night?
No, he can poke all he wants. He's not going to get much help from Pakistan. Again, we've been trying to do that for 16 years, and it simply hasn't worked. We're going to have continued problems with that porous border and the terrorists going back and forth.
Tonight, the president's in Arizona. We'll see soon what he does there. But tonight, it's a campaign event, a presidential event. There is a distinction there. What do you expect? Do you expect him to reaffirm his messages of last night? Tonight's the Donald Trump that's not on script.
I think that the people in the White House are saying the same thing. I think they hold their breath and wonder what will come out of his mouth. Because we've seen some variations of flip-flops on issues depending on what day, including Charlottesville. So I think the president gets caught up in a campaign-style rally, and we need to remind him that the campaign is over. You're going to be president for another 3.5 years. Let's start governing. But he gets caught up in this. So do I expect him to look in the faces of people who support the sheriff down there and many of his, frankly, bigoted issues and say, no, I don't agree with you? It's going to be a problem.
Steve Bannon's gone. Was it any surprise to you, or was it a coincidence in timing? The speech on Afghanistan last night, the Arizona rally tonight? Because Steve Bannon thought we should contract the war out, essentially. That's what he wanted.
What I don't understand is if he's going to make the changes he talks about in the White House, why not pull the whole Band-Aid off at the same time? If you get rid of Bannon after Charlottesville, why not Gorka and Miller at the exact same time?
Well, General Kelly said he's not done, assuming Kelly's playing a big role in this.
Yeah, but if General Kelly has that role, if Bannon was part of the problem, why not get rid of all the similar ones at the same time? And quite honestly, why put Bannon in the first place? Why put a white nationalist in there in the first place who was, the Breitbart guy, if you didn't believe him, right? Let's remember what the mayor of Charlottesville said. Look at the campaign he ran. Look at the people he appointed. Look at everything he has said and done since he's become president of the United States, with a few minor blip exceptions of trying to be open to the greater good and the better angels, better nature of our angels. He's done just the opposite.
Take a break in a second. I want to talk about issues that impact us at home, the agenda coming up in Congress. But to wrap this up, Secret Service says it's running out of money basically in September. We're spending money protecting not just the president and his immediate family, we expect it, but his kids. His kids go on business trips. That's just the way it is.
Well, it is in that we have to protect the president and his family, and that's our responsibility. And we owe a responsibility to the agency and those agents to get paid appropriately. It's the right thing to do. It's a smart thing to do. But the fact of the matter is, 7 trips now to Mar-a-Lago, 5 to his golf course in New Jersey. The trips to Florida alone are $3 million apiece.
So he's got a role to play.
He's got a role to play. He's spent about 1/3 of his young presidency traveling on vacation.
All right. I want to talk policy with you because that's what people want to know about, what's going to happen when you guys go back. And that's what we're going to talk about, what we can expect when Congress returns to Capitol Hill. It's going to be soon. More with Mike Quigley in a minute.